Welcome to the Chimney and Fireplace Success Network, a weekly broadcast sponsored by CVC Success Group, hosted each week by industry speaker, coach, author, and educator Jerry Isenhour. Our presentations are produced to assist business owners and managers in turning their business dreams into their business realities. And now, here is your host, Jerry Isenhour.
And I want to welcome you to another episode of the Chimney and Fireplace Success Network. This is brought to you every episode by the CVC Success Group, where our mission is to provide the tools to make your business dreams into your business realities. So this is Jerry Isenhour joining you again today, and I have a special person with me today, one of the best mentors I have in life, my best friend, my wife, Sheryl Isenhour. So Sheryl, you ready to rock and roll with us today?
I sure am. Let's go.
There you go. Okay, so what are we going to talk about today? We're making this broadcast, we're recording it on April the 5th, right in the middle of the COVID-19 crisis that's sweeping the world, our country, and likely has disrupted your business and your life. But we don't want to talk about the problems we're seeing today. What we want to give you a message on is what we're calling the new normal. In other words, what's it going to be like when we come out of this current crisis? Because see, that's the major things that you have to be concerned about is what's going to be happening as you come out of this. So often we make decisions for today, but what we've really got to do is make decisions for tomorrow and into the future. Sheryl, what would you add to that about making decisions for the future?
Well, every day you wake up and you've got to look forward at least for the next couple hours. We can't do that any longer. For it's changing. We've got to make some plans for when these days come back to what will be our new normal, which hopefully will kind of mimic our old normal.
Yeah, we could hope for that, but actually, as we look back over past things that have happened in our country, in the world, and in our own lives, probably things are going to be different. I want you to just think for a minute. What changed after 9/11? After 9/11, we saw changes. One of the things that we saw was people helping each other to the highest level. Do you remember that time after the 9/11 catastrophe when the New Yorkers were depending on each other, helping each other, and going to the new normal for New York? Do you remember that time, Sheryl?
I do remember it, and I remember it all too well. I just wish that for us, this will bring a closeness to that we can see, that we can feel. I actually see people out there doing it now, maybe not yet to the extent of the 9/11, but they are getting closer and closer. Doctors, nurses, people are worrying about them. People actually are caring right now.
Yeah, and you know, one of the neat things is even though things seem to be moving at the speed of a snail at times, we're seeing that our government, our administration, and our Congress, even though they're still arguing amongst themselves, which is the old normal and will probably be the new normal, they're actually creating programs and designed to help small business, to help employees, to help and speed through this recovery that's going to be required. Now, if you think back in the last recession of 2007 through 2010, that didn't happen. There was very little help. We didn't see them stepping up to the plate with the stimulus plans like we're seeing today, or the help they're trying to issue through the Small Business Administration. Yes, it's discouraging, and I know that it seems like, again, it's moving at the pace of a snail. But we got to realize there has never been systems designed or software designed in order to handle this overwhelming need that is happening. So one of the things we've got to do is we've got to exhibit patience into this. Sheryl, what's your thought on patience in the middle of a crisis?
Well, it seems to be harder than it does at normal times, but you've got to issue it. If you aren't patient, you're not going to accomplish anything. The government's trying as hard as they can. I'll admit they're not perfect. The things that are coming out aren't and will never be perfect, but they're a whole lot better than what they were. So people just have to slow down and realize it's like opening a box of nails and dashing them out there and trying to pick them up real quick. You can only get so many so fast.
Right. And it makes me think a lot as we go through this because let's face it, we're also in a tremendous financial crisis right now. And I think back to all the times that I've heard Dave Ramsey speak about financial peace and about becoming debt free and how to get on top of this. So, will this be the new normal where people will listen to this sound advice and build up their personal reserves in order to weather things such as this?
I seriously hope so, Jerry. I'm just so afraid that after a period of time, they might start forgetting a little bit and not doing it. But it's mandatory because if we've got this, things like this are going to happen again. We talked after 9/11, that's the worst thing that could ever happen. We'll talk after this. This is the worst thing that ever happened. I hate to tell people there'll be something out there that'll be the worst thing that ever happened.
Right. And as many of us grew up and we grew up and our grandparents saved everything. Do you remember that? They saved the tenfold. They saved the nothing got thrown out. They made do with what they had. And what they did is they lowered their waste that they produced and figured out how to reuse it, reusing the tenfold, reusing the other things. Is this going to be part of the way we will go through a change that all of a sudden we'll decide that the resources that we have to preserve them? What's your thoughts on that, Cheryl?
Let's just say I really hope so. People are seeing a time now that we never thought we'd see when toilet paper was really important, when the minor things what that we thought were minor in life were important. Will we look at those things more? I honestly hope so. And I hope that we cherish everything and everyone that we've got, not just the commodities.
Yeah. And you look at that, and I'm sure we've all gone through this, that we go to a grocery store and many of the supplies that we've been used to seeing there, such as, and it's almost ridiculous, is where did all the toilet paper go? It just seems like it's gone. And now I think going in the future that a lot of us are going to be stockpiling for weeks for in case a similar episode like this comes on. What's your thoughts on that, Cheryl? Do you think people will start building small warehouses in their homes to stock these needs?
I think the staples will definitely be done. I mean, you and I raised a lot of parents, and we had to buy things in huge bulk. And thank goodness we had some things put back, not what I would call a stockpile, but enough that we have been okay. But there's many people that aren't. But yes, I think they will. I remember when the bomb shelter things came up. Everybody built bomb shelters, and there's many of you listening to this that didn't live through that time. So you don't understand it, but I still know people with bomb shelters.
Right. And this goes back to the early 60s and the panic that we had going on in our country because of fear of the Cuban Missile Crisis. And I can well remember going to the county fair, and there were people there selling bomb shelters. In fact, there was a bomb shelter erected for show at the fairgrounds that stayed there for a number of years. And this was the fear. And this is what's coming out of this. So as you go through this, what is your plans for the new normal? Because I'm going to tell you, it's my firm belief business is going to be different. I think the way we've done business in the past is not going to be the same. I think that we're going to suffer a long period of time where many consumers are going to be very cautious about face-to-face contacts. I'm wondering, when will the handshake come back? When will people not be scared to hug a friend? When will these things change? We don't know. Is this the new normal as we walk around and we see people wearing masks and we don't even have enough masks and medical supplies for our medical workers out there? Does this bring us to a realization of what we've got to do? What is the new normal as we're talking about? What else do you see as the new normal, Cheryl?
I see working a lot more, maybe not working from home at this point, but the capabilities of working from home or from a distant office, having everything set up where in times like this, we can just automatically disperse to those areas and our business can go on. And we're going to have to take this and keep it into place instead of just do it and then put it back on the shelf.
Right. At CBC Success Group, we have been proponents of processes and procedures and standard operating processes for a number of years. Now, what we're encouraging people, what you've got to build through this is your disaster plans. What happens when things go down like this in the future? What is going to be your preparations in order to not go through tremendous loss, tremendous suffering through these times? This is going to be the new normal. We're going to be very close to what our grandparents were coming out of the Great Depression, or perhaps your grandparents were. We're going to be developing new habits, new processes that are going to change the way we live. Cheryl, what else do you see changes in the new normal?
I see the changes in just how we go from day to day, how we get up, what we think, what we do first off, how we treat our children, how we move on a day-to-day basis, how we communicate. And just as Jerry was saying, I'm going to take that a little bit farther. Right now, we are doing the things to make it where we can work on the internet away from somewhere. But I think somewhere in your disaster plan, you need to be planning for a day that the internet may go down for a while.
Right. And these are all the things that come into play. You know, over the last 10 to 20 years, we've heard a term in business called paperless. And as paperless came out, many people thought we were talking about conserving paper, conserving trees. That's what they thought paperless was. But paperless was actually elimination of the duplication of efforts in a business where you're doing things one time and moving information rapidly through the business where it could be used by others. Now we're seeing the advantages of a company that is set up to work paperless because everything can transfer in a digital format through the World Wide Web. Just think today what you're seeing and the capabilities you have sitting right there in your home, on a smartphone, on a computer, on a tablet, of the ability to communicate in a phenomenal manner that 20 years ago, what would we have been doing? We didn't have the internet speeds we had today. But like Cheryl said, what happens if that goes down? Is that a concern for us? So as we go forward, this is what I'm asking you to consider. What will you learn out of this? What are the things that you're going to take to heart, store in your mind, put into processes? What are you doing right now in order to prepare for this? You know, are you sitting around? Are you just gorging on Netflix, watching movies? Are you doing things, reading books? Are you researching? Are you putting together the processes, the procedures that you're going to need in your company when everything starts back up? Cheryl, what's your thoughts on that?
I think we've got to prepare, and we've got to prepare for that day when it starts up. We've got to prepare for the next time it goes down. But and this is the social side of me, don't forget about yourself during this. Prepare for the time when you need to relax just to reinvigorate yourself. Only way you can make your business good is if your mind's good. Clear your mind and go at it from that aspect. I don't see that there's not so much stress out there now that people are getting so uptight they can't do anything. Don't let that be your new normal. I mean, every day we wake up, it's the new normal for the day. But as we get ready for the new normal of the future, take care of yourself, but get your things in order. Make sure that everything's out there. Make sure that you can plan for the day that we have another catastrophe, excuse me, the day that we have no internet for a couple days. I just think the new normal is going to be another day in our future. And after that, Jerry, I hate to say it, but there'll be another new normal.
There will. There's going to be a new normal. So this is one of the things I'm going to encourage you to start today if you haven't already started. Our memories are short. This is the way we cannot hold but so much information and bring it up to the top of our minds at a moment's notice. So if you're not doing this now, my suggestion is that you start journaling every single day. You write down what's happening right now because you're going to need these mental notes in order to move forward. Cheryl and I have also taught a process in classes, and we actually have classes online on how to mind map. And mind mapping is a significant way to set your plans in motion of what you're going to do. So Cheryl, let's give them a brief rundown of what a mind map can do for you and tell them your personal experience of how mind maps have helped you in your projects over your career.
Mind mapping is just a method that you use. It can be circles connected, it can be squares, it can be whatever you like. But you put it down on paper. You get your major goal that you're working on, and then you branch out from that, and then you branch out from every one of those. Looks kind of like a spider web after a while. What it did for me was when I was trying to write a book, I actually put my title down first, and then I branched out with the chapters, and then I branched out with what I wanted to put in it. And it's still in process. Actually, it's a book on the parents we raised, and it's amazing. It opens your mind up. It clears out those thoughts and opens up time for more. It was amazing how far back in the past I could go.
Yeah, and that's what you've got to do right now. You know, one of the things that I did, and if you know me, you may know my personal story, but I went through tremendous tribulation, challenges in the last recession. And one of the things that I did after that was I wrote a book. It was called Chaos to Reinvention. And this is what writing did for me. It enabled me to put down my fears, what I had gone through. At the completion of writing this book, it was almost like I had cut myself wide open and let the world see inside of me. But what this did for me was it was one of the best methods that I found in order to help myself and hopefully help others as they face challenges such as that. So do the same. You know, there's a book in all of us. Do you realize that you could be spending time right now writing a book that could further you? It could increase your ability to handle this frustration we're going through, and it could turn you into the community authority in what you do. It's amazing what writing a book can do for you. Cheryl, how did you feel when your first book was published?
I was really excited. It was kind of like a piece of me out there for everybody to see. It different from yours. Mine was more knowledge and technical stuff, but it made you feel important, and it's just something you might need at this time. Also, I'm going to back up just a tad on your journaling, Jerry, if you don't mind. When you're journaling for that day, write your feelings down that day. Write how you felt. This journal's for you. It's not for anybody else. And then as you progress through this, go back and read it where you were at on certain days. And that, like Jerry's book, will open you up.
Right. Because what's going to happen, like I say, your memories are short. You know, a lot of times we get tied up into the good times and we don't see the potential issues that are lurking. I mean, right now, as I look in my consultations with financial experts in the world of business, up until now, financial advisors have advised 6 months of reserves in a business account. In other words, we can operate the business for 6 months without any income. They're changing that now based on what we've experienced here and what we see may happen in the coming days. They're now recommending that the best financial plan is to amass 12 to 18 months of financial reserves that you have access to. And see, you think about those things now. Well, see, amassing those financial reserves, that's hard work. It's hard work to set money aside and not touch it. But just think where you would be right now if you had that 6 months of reserves. Just think where you would be today if you had taken the Dave Ramsey advice to heart. Where would you be today? Would you have less worry? Because that's what I know. The companies that have these reserves, their owners, their managers are much better able to rest at night. They're much more, confident they're going to come out of this at the other end. And that's got to be your goal at this point. I advise every one of my clients that you have to look after yourself. You have to look after your family. You've got to look after the business to make sure there's something here when this is all over with. You got to look after your employees, your team members, and you got to look after your customers. And that, my friends, is a very hard thing to do in this day and time. And in order to do it, every business owner, every manager has to step up their leadership to an entirely new level. You likely have people that work for you that are filled with fear right now. Some don't even realize the depth of this issue. It seems like understanding that depth is something that comes with maturity. I'm not sure if I was working for someone in my 20s or in my 30s, if I would have actually understood what's happening in this world today. But as we go through this is cycling very true. So I'm going to encourage you. Journal through this. Start making your plans of how you're going to come out of this. Your business plans that you have together are probably going to have to be altered. They're going to have to be modified for this new normal. So, Cheryl, is there anything else you'd like to add about the new normal before we sign out of this podcast edition?
The only thing I would like to say is don't live in the past, but be aware of the future because all of us have got to work in that direction. The past leads us nowhere except for memories and something that we can build a future on.
Let's add one thing to that. Earlier this week, you had a conversation with Tom Ziegler, the son of Zig Ziglar. And in this, Tom had a quote that he pulled out of his daddy's file. And do you remember what that quote was, Cheryl?
I'm not sure of the exact words. I know you've got it written down. I just remember it was so good. Can you repeat it? And then I'll
You
say some more.
you plan for the best, you prepare for the worst, and you maximize what comes. As Cheryl was talking to Tom, he wondered before that conversation if his dad were still living, and his dad motivated, 250 million people. It's estimated that he changed their lives, the people that followed him. And he came up and he said, if dad were here today, I think this is the message that he would be saying. Cheryl, how inspiring was that conversation with Tom that day?
It was remarkable to the point that I have put it up on the sites, and I think everyone needs to listen to it. It gives you new hope, it gives you a feeling of what's to come, how we're going to come out of this, and how we as people can be better because of this.
Right. So if you're interested in listening to Cheryl's conversation with Tom Ziegler that was taken just a few days ago, go to our company Facebook page, CVC Success Group, and we have it posted there. We also have it posted on our YouTube channel, CVC Coaching. We'd love to share this message of inspiration from Tom on this. Tom is a guy that was raised with one of the most inspirational fathers that any of us could have. Just think what it was like growing up with a person who inspired others and inspired himself when things were down, who inspired himself to move to another level. Now, how did he do this? He did it by reading. He did it by research. He did it by changing the things he learned into his own words and speaking in front of people in groups, on CDs, on cassette tapes, and establish something called Automobile University. So here's my challenge to you. Learn what you can from this. Learn to inspire others. Prepare yourself and prepare others for the new normal, because the world will be different as we come out of this crisis. And with that, we want to thank you for joining us today on the Chimney and Fireplace Success Network. It's a pleasure, it's a privilege, and it's an honor to be able to share with you our thoughts and for you to invest this time into listening to us. Our best wishes for you as we go through turbulent times, and we will make it. We will make it. You've got to have that hope for the future. And with that, this is Jerry Isenhour and
Sheryl Isenhour.
we want to thank you for joining us. Let us know how we can help you at CBC Success Group get through and navigate through this time. Talk to you next week.
Thanks for joining us here each week at the Chimney and Fireplace Success Network, sponsored by CVC Success Group, providing you the coaching and educational outreach services you need to move to your dream destination in business and in life.